Hello and welcome to episode 40 of Avonlea Chronicles, a knitting podcast. My name is Martha and I'm here to talk about all things knitting and crafting. I am 2 weeks into my summer break and I've been doing a lot of reading and a lot of knitting, and I have got to share what I've been reading first. So I finished Remarkably Bright Creatures on my Kobo, and then I watched the movie. It was so good. It's narrated by an octopus and it just has such a lovely story. I really loved the book, and the movie was good, although the movie left out quite a bit of like backstory. And I can see how to make it a movie they had to cut that stuff out. But like the whole crux of the story was like lost in the movie, I felt. And I mean, I will probably watch the movie again, but I really felt like the whole point of the story was lost in the movie. They didn't make such a big deal out of it. But anyway, both were really good. And so because I finished those, I wanted to start another book on my Kobo, but I wanted to read this book that I got by Leslie Crew called Death and Other Inconveniences. I got this at the bookstore on like National Bookstore Day. And I had or was reading The Spoon Stealer at the time, also by Leslie Crew. She's a really good author. I was kind of taken with the whole cross-stitched cover. And this is actually a really funny book. Like, it's funny and it's poignant. And I was like laughing from page 1, but it does get a little more serious, but it's kind of fun and lighthearted. I found The Spoon Stealer very hard to read. I could only read like 2 chapters a night. Whereas this, I picked it up the other day. There's 25 chapters and I read 5 chapters in one sitting. So it's really good. I highly recommend. And then I have to start my book club reading list. I'm doing this one, I think, not until April of 2027. So in almost a year, but it needs to go to my mom and then it might need to be circulated around. And I actually had someone from church that I sit with in choir who said she read this week and it was really good. And I've been like waiting to get to the knitting part of this book. It took me a little bit to get into it, but I think that's because Remarkably Bright Creatures and Death and Other Inconveniences, you kind of like just get right into the story with 2 feet, whereas this one, it takes a little more to build up to like the crux of the story. So I'm actually just getting to a point in the story where they're talking about and learning how to knit in code with Morse code and knits and purls. And so I was talking to my mom today and I'm like at church and I'm like, I'm getting to a point in a few pages where there's like lots of K's and P's and I can tell they're starting to knit in code. And so I'm actually going to knit up a swatch with the code in it so that I can take it to book club with me and I can show them what it looks like. So I need to find somewhere in my stash some like a solid color to knit with, because you don't want to use a variegated or a tonal or something where the color, like I wouldn't want to use something like this because the knits and purls would get lost in the color of the yarn. So it just needs to be like a solid color. But I think it's going to be so much fun to try it out and just see what knitting in code is like. And I got this, I started, and then I've been on the wait list for Libby for the audiobook for ages because this book took so long to come in from the bookstore. And so I ended up restarting because I got the Libby book, and the person that got to read this is so good. She's Irish. So if it's not dialogue, she's speaking in her Irish accent, but then like there's some Scottish people and British people, and she uses Scottish and British accents depending on who's speaking, and she does voices and stuff. It's so good. So I'm really enjoying this and hoping that I can finish before the audiobook runs out of time. But it's really, really good, and I highly recommend it. And then I've been watching a few things. I finished The Cable Girls, and it was like a whole series. I think there's 4 seasons and then 2 finale seasons with like 5 episodes each. There was like 48 episodes, and it was good. It was almost like one continual movie, almost. Like there wasn't, it just continued on, if you know what I mean. There wasn't like breaks in between each episode, or like, you know how like shows like Little House on the Prairie and Road to Avonlea, Dr. Quinn, Medicine Woman, they sort of each have a theme for each episode. No, The Cable Girls is just like one big long movie separated into episodes and seasons. And so I watched that, finished it, and then I watched Remarkably Bright Creatures. I watched Summer Camp, a little bit for the older crowd. It's funny, it's comedy, it's just lighthearted. And I'm starting Little House on the Prairie. I'm actually going to finish today. I was prepared to not like it. When CBC, so the pinnacle of Anne of Green Gables is Sullivan Entertainment's 1984 version with Megan Follows, Colleen Dewhurst, and Richard Farnsworth as Anne, Marilla, and Matthew. And then Little House on the Prairie, it's Michael Landon's version of the series with Michael Landon, Victor French, Melissa Gilbert. And those are like the pinnacle of the 2 adaptations for Anne and Little House. And years ago, CBC did a version of Anne called Anne with an E, and it is the most garbage show, and it's just a garbage reinterpretation of Anne that I've ever seen. I thought it was terrible. I don't like it. And so I wasn't sure going into Little House what my thoughts were, but I'm actually loving it. And I said to my friend, I'm like, it can hold up on its own. It's different enough from Michael Landon's that both of them can hold their own in their own separate ways. It's like this first season of Little House was like the pilot of Michael Landon's Little House, where they move, they build the little house, they're interacting with the indigenous peoples on the land. That is all stretched out in this first 8 episodes in this first season, whereas like that was just done in the pilot of Little House when Michael Landon did it. So they're different in their own ways. And one thing that I love, and this is like a representation thing, they cast Laura. The girl they cast as Laura has naturally curly hair. And so her braids are like, they don't straighten her hair. Like she's got her, they have braided her naturally curly hair. She's got little curly wisps that come out. You see the halo of frizz that happens with curly hair. And I love that because most often they want this perfectly straight, nice looking hair. And I'm really glad that they've played into using her natural hair the way that it is. So that has been so fun for me to see because obviously I have curly hair and I don't often see that representation of a hair, like your hair type, in film and media. So I'm loving that. And I'm just loving it in general. Also, the first episode, Alison Arngrim, who plays Nellie in the Michael Landon's version, she has a cameo. And then I think in episode 4, my beloved Megan Follows, who is the OG Anne of Green Gables, also has a cameo. And she's in it, which is like the crossover we didn't know we needed between Anne and Little House. So I highly recommend watching Little House on Netflix. It's so good. And I'm really enjoying it, even though I didn't know that I was going to in the beginning. So that's what I've been reading and watching. And now let's get into some projects. So the first thing, and I'm looking because the pattern fell on the floor, is my mom had the knitting ladies over for a yarn swap, and nothing really caught my eye. Sorry, my hair got all in my face. Nothing really caught my eye except for this little, like, I don't even know what to call it, like I'm calling it a micro skein from Richard DeVries, and it was worsted weight, and I think I threw the tag out, so I don't even remember what the color is called. But there was another skein of yarn, and it was called Fair Isle something, and it looked like it would knit up in a Fair Isle-esque way, like how sock yarn knits up in a pattern sometimes, like commercial sock yarn. So I was actually on my phone looking to see what this yarn knit up like when I saw a video for this dragonfly, and I ended up finding written patterns for this crochet dragonfly, and I was able to make 2 dragonflies from it. I did one a little bit bigger than the other. I think I just switched my hook size. That was all I got out of that one little skein. And I'm imagining making a mobile. So like I can get at one of the dollar stores a ring with wooden beads on it. So I'm imagining getting that and then hanging these at different heights, and then also making some crocheted flowers and maybe seeing if there's like crocheted butterflies. And so making a little mobile from scraps and like hanging them at different heights on this ring. That's what I think I'm going to do with these. But that is one little project that I made, and it was like super quick. You crochet the body and the head first, and then each of the wings individually, and then you just sew them on to the body. It was cute. I did steam block them. They're a little bit floppy, but I think I kind of like that. I'm not really sure. I haven't decided. But I am on the hunt for, I think I have to go to the different dollar store, the Dollar Tree, across town to get a wooden bead ring. But I think that's what I'm going to do. And then just like over the summer, find other things, flowers, butterflies to crochet, and then like hang them all from this ring. I think that'd be really cool and cute. But that was one thing that I made. And that was the only thing I picked up from the yarn swap. I took some stuff. I took some yarn I had that I didn't. It was blue, it was speckled, variegated. And I had imagined knitting a striped tee with it. And I just haven't. And so it was time to let go of that. And I did. And then nothing else caught my eye. So that was what I did at the yarn swap. And let's see. I finished this little shallet. I am calling this the sampler shallet. It was made with 3 50-gram skeins of koigu yarn, and I did the embroidery stitch from my Bubba's shawl, an eyelet stitch, which I used in my Looking for Loons shallet, and then the lily stitch from the Lilia shawl, all in this one little shallet. And my mom is really itching to knit this. So I am going to, and really, I don't have much to write up the pattern. I just have to copy and paste the stitch patterns from my other patterns and put it into one. So it will be available on Ravelry this week. And you really, I was thinking about this last night. You could do this in so many ways. If you just wanted to do the embroidery stitch and you just had one skein, it would probably only go to here, because that's 2 50-gram skeins, which make 100 skeins. You could just do the lily stitch, or the embroidery stitch the whole way. You could just do the lily stitch the whole way, which would be my Lilia shawl, and that would be my Bubba's shawl. But you could do, if you had like a sock set of 100-gram skein and then a 50-gram skein, you could do like the whole like embroidery stitch the whole way of your 100-gram skein, and then instead of doing the lily stitch, just do the eyelets, or switch and do the lily stitch. My mom has 2 skeins of one color and 1 of another, so she could totally mix and match. You could do the whole thing the lily stitch, and like if you had 100 grams, do 100 grams in the lily stitch and then do the eyelets. Like, you can totally do so much with this. So I'm going to put this pattern out. I will put some suggestions of combos that you could do with it. If you didn't have 3 50-gram skeins, if you had like 100-gram and 150-gram, which is most sock sets, you could do so much. So I'm going to put this out. I did a little picot for the edge, but you could do whatever you like. So that was a fun little knit. My mom loves the Bondi shawl, and I know she's gonna watch this. I'm kind of hoping this might become her new favorite, because she's knit so many Bondi shawls, and like, why not give love to her own designer that she knows? So I'm really happy that I got that done. It was fun to knit and just super mindless. And each stitch pattern is a 4-row pattern repeat, so I made it really easy. So I got that done. And then I was going to save this to do a knit along, but I needed it. So I started a while back using this Katia yarn. It is a little fuzzy and kind of sheds, but is beautiful and is super soft. I had started making another lakeside shawl, which is one of my patterns that I released this spring. It's a top-down triangle with garter stitch broken up by stockinette and eyelet rows. And so I've started. I'm on bigger, I think I sized up a needle size. I really don't remember, because at this point I've memorized the pattern. So I'm just trucking away at this. I'm loving the subtle color gradient and how it moves from one color to the next. I'm also using my Addie unicorn needles, which I will say this time and again, I thought this join was going to be a problem because you pop the needle on and click it in place. Like, there's a little hook on the end of the cable, and so you put the needle down onto it, twist it, and pull it up a bit to lock it in place instead of the traditional screw type. And I literally never know that the join is even there. It's just so great. So I'm just trucking away at this. It's very mindless. It's been actually a really nice project to work on in these first few weeks where I'm like tired and resting and like not having to think about it too much. So I'm hoping to get that finished soon. And then I also started on a Christmas present. This is the Musselburgh hat by, I think it's by Isolde Teague. And like everybody and their dog is knitting this hat. I think it's been out for a few years. It has 48,000 project pages on Ravelry, which is absolutely wild. And then there's all the people that will knit it that don't make a project page for Ravelry. I'm one of those people. I do not make project pages on Ravelry. So I'm using the merino sock yarn from Pine and Pearl in the color Fiddle Leaf. Oh my gosh, this is like knitting with butter. It's so soft. This is a gaugeless pattern. So I had to do some investigating. It's how I know there's 48,000 project pages on Ravelry, because it tells you, but you just start. You pick up your favorite needle size or one that like is recommended for your yarn weight. Usually it's on labels. There is no yarn weight on the label for this yarn or needle size. Sorry, there's no recommended needle size on the label. So I had to do some investigating and looking at, if I'm knitting the adult medium size with fingering weight yarn, what size needle should I pick up? And I eventually just had to Google it. And so Google said a US 4, which is a 3.5 millimeter needle. So what you do is you start knitting, and then once you have enough, you find your gauge using 1 inch measurement and a stitch count over 1 inches, and then you pick it from there based on the charts that are in the pattern. So I was a little skeptical at first as to like how this is going to fit. And it's a hat. I was reading some comments. Somebody was like, adult medium at like, and I think they were using the same needle size as me and a fingering weight yarn, or they were using the same stitch count that I have. They're like, is it really gonna fit? Yes, it uses negative ease. So, and you make like, this will be one long tube that's also closed up at the other end, and then you fold the one end into the other and fold the brim up. So I was a little skeptical at first as to whether or not this was going to fit an adult male's head. I'm using my brother as my model and measurements for. But like, now that I'm knitting it, there is more than what is, like, it's bigger than the 16-inch needle size that I'm knitting on. So I am hopeful that it will work out. I'm not so hopeful that I have enough yarn, but I'm just going to wait and see. I don't need that much more if I need more in the end, but I'm just going to, like, people say it's a one skein project, so I'm like not really sure it's a one skein project when you like don't have a proper gauge. and stuff. So I'm just gonna see what happens. If I have to get more, then I get more. I'm hopeful it'll just be a one skeiner. But it's really mindless. And so between my lakeside shawl and this hat, this is what I've been working on. And I'm just trying, sorry, my big window is right here and there's like so much traffic and stuff going by. I'm trying not to get distracted. But that was like a big monster truck that drove by. Anyway, between this and my lakeside shawl, there are things that I can knit mindlessly that have been great as I'm just like landing and resting after school has been out. And I just want to get them done. This is a Christmas present for someone that is not going to be here at Christmas because they live in another part of the world during Christmas. And so I want to get it done so that I can take it to the city when I see my aunt, either in a couple of weeks or in October at a wedding. So it's just one of those things that I wanted to like get out of my hair. So I'm working on that. I also have a baby shower to go to, so I was going to crochet something. I thought about trying to knit my blanket that I want to design, but I didn't want to put the pressure on myself. So I went to Fabricland. I got 4 meters of fabric, 4 different flannels, and I just sewed 1 meter by 1 meter square flannel baby blankets, just 2 of them. So they're all in a bag, ready to go. So that was a quick 1-day project. I used to sew those blankets all the time as like an outreach to a church that would go to Guatemala, and they'd give them to mothers with babies. So for me to sew 2 flannel blankets was nothing. So those are some things I've been working on. I'm trying to think of like what else is around me. Oh, all over my Instagram the last few days has been girls decorating their, I feel like all the things that I grew up with in the 90s and the early 2000s are like coming back. It's just like a nostalgic thing. It's fun. Like the world is a hard place. And so this just adds a bit of fun and whimsy into our lives. I'm a corded headphone girly. These are my headphones with the OG headphone jack that I use with my iPod. And then I have another set of headphones with the USB port that goes into my new phone. So sometimes when these are together in my desk and I'm trying to organize my desk with some little containers, so I pulled these out. Sometimes if both sets of headphones are all nicely wrapped up together in my desk, I pull out the wrong ones. So what I've been seeing over Instagram is the girls wrapping their cords with embroidery floss, like friendship bracelets. So this is one set that of my embroidery floss, mostly that I've been using for my cross stitch colors, but it's got some fun variegated colors in here. But I have another box of this with a whole bunch of other colors. So my plan is to pick out some fun colors and to wrap these headphones with the OG headphone jack with embroidery floss and just make it look like friendship bracelet. People also add beads and charms. So I'm thinking I might pick up some seed beads, maybe get like some really like tiny charms. And I'm just gonna have fun with these. I don't use them very often, if I'm being really honest. But I thought it would be fun to at least decorate one pair so that when they are sitting together, if they're sitting together in the container under my, like on my desk shelf, I will be able to quickly differentiate between the 2 pairs. So I'm going to have some fun with that, picking some embroidery floss colors out and wrapping it like friendship bracelet, because I was so into that. That's why I have lots of embroidery floss, because it's not just for cross stitching, also for friendship bracelets. So I'm kind of excited about that. It has nothing to do with knitting, but we're here for all the crafts. So that is that. And then I'm a little bit stuck on some projects with yarn pairings. So I have 2 skeins of this. It's 237 yards. And originally I was thinking of like a tank or a top. And my mom said it'd be nice to do it with something that maybe has a little bit of lace. And so I found, I'm just going to see if there's a better picture. This is a brand new pattern called the Evangeline blouse, and she calls it, she's expecting, so she calls it a maternity nursing postpartum life pattern. And it's just this beautiful, like, wow, there's like no pictures. It's beautiful. It's just this basic blouse with a fancy edge around the neckline. But then I'm looking for the schematic. There's also a little bit of lace along the side and then some ribbing. And so I was thinking this would be the perfect for this light blue plain yarn. My step grandma gave this to me at Christmas a few years ago. She had me. And so I've been like waiting for the perfect pattern, and I saw it on Instagram and I loved it. And so I am thinking that I might have enough. I'm hoping. I was gonna say it uses a heck of a lot of yarn. The yardage is like the first yardage for the smallest size is 1,410 yards, but it is 4 yards for lace held double. I will be using fingering, and so I think I can just do fingering held single. So I'm thinking that that's what I'm going to do. It's just this beautiful light top with a little bit of something. And so I'm thinking that's what I'm going to use this blue for. But I'm open to suggestions. But I think that would just be perfect, because the other patterns that I have didn't really have like a lot of lace. So I'm thinking that's one. And then I had this Blooming Breeze tee by Hedgehog Fibers, and I have this is blue speckled. This is also blue with some speckles. It's got like yellow and then darker blue. And I was thinking this would be a good pairing. This was from someone who used to have a yarn company and dyed yarn, and then they sold all their stuff. So a couple summers ago, went to their yard sale, and I got this for like $5. But there's no tag on it, so I'm like, I have 3 of them. But so I don't have exact yardage. It's fingering weight, I know that. But like 2 to 3 skeins is what you need for about my size. So that's what I'm thinking of doing with this, because I will probably have leftovers, but like I know I don't have a sweater quantity to do something with arms. But I was thinking just this light breezy top, because this is kind of similar to what I'm seeing. I thought this would go well together. And then I really want to make this rippled camisole, and I have a skein. I have several skeins of a plain purple, but I really do have a sweater quantity of plain purple. But I've seen people knit this in other colors that's a little more fun, but you don't need that much. I'm looking at like, I might need 2 skeins if I'm looking at the yardage right, like just really quickly. But I was thinking of maybe doing these 2 skeins. Like I've seen people do different colors. I don't have 2 of the same, but I was thinking of like maybe putting these 2 skeins together of my Anne of Green Gables yarn. This is Anne of Ingleside, and this is Rainbow Valley from Peggy May Yarn's book, Anne of Green Gables book yarns. So I was thinking of maybe this, or if, I don't know, maybe I will find some solid color somewhere, but I really am wanting to make this little camisole. So that's what I was maybe thinking of, putting these 2 together and doing like a, I don't know. It would have to be like, I either have to stripe them and be working like, it's nice and ribbed, right? So I'd like, if I was going to use both of these, I would do like a couple rounds in one skein and then a couple rounds in the other skein. So I don't have like this weird line partway through where I've switched colors. So I'm like thinking about it. If you have suggestions, please let me know. I'm open to them. But this is what I have to work with. And I just thought it'd be kind of fun. If you look at the project pages, people have done it in like wild colors. It's just cute. So that's what I'm thinking of doing. Those are my projects. And once I get like the hat done and my lakeside shawl, I also have to measure a piece of clothing for my rose cardigan with all the crocheted granny squares. And so that's on my plan for this week. And once I get that started and once I get that like set up and I've measured a cardigan that I like, I will just be able to like whip through those granny squares. Like I imagine putting a timer on for an hour and just like sitting down crocheting granny squares for an hour and just like getting them done. And then I'll be able to construct the sweater. But those are all my projects. If you have any thoughts on like these tops, and if I've got like good pairings for the yarn and the patterns, let me know in the comments below. And I will be back in 2 weeks, hopefully with lots of updates on all of my projects. Hopefully some finished shawls, a hat, my headphones will be done, and I will have started on some of the garments that I want to make and probably a new design. My shop is all stocked up. The Avonlea Schoolhouse, I put out some new graphics on shirts for the beginning of the school year in September. So if you have people that are teachers or kids, if you're looking for like a grade specific shirt for your kid for the first day of school, I have all of those in my shop in both English and French. And I put a bunch of new graphics up on some items, and Avonlea General Store is also always full, and the Mercantile with patterns and merch. So if you would like some of that, you can get that there. And this week, the sampler shallet pattern will be out on Ravelry, Lovecrafts, and my website, avonleaknits.ca. So I'll see you back here in a couple of weeks.